So if you're like me and you grew up playing Splinter Cell and you absolutely freaking loved that game, this is going to be your new favorite book. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about Churchill's Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. One of the greatest titles of any book I think I've probably ever seen. But two, it actually backs it up. It is literally one of the best, most intriguing history books I have read probably ever. Giles Milton, I've read a couple of his other books and they're all excellent. I would highly recommend him as an author, but this one especially just, oh, it hit such a soft spot in my heart. I cannot even tell you. It was so fascinating to hear the stories of these men. Basically what happened in World War II, there was a couple of different guys who started to realize like, hey, we cannot beat the Nazis fighting the way that we would normally fight. The English were very reserved and very etiquette driven in their warfare, and so they had all these manners that they would have to follow, and they had this drive inside of them that they wanted to fight in a gentlemanly way, which, you know, granted, like that's probably a good plan, but surprisingly enough, like Hitler was not really with that idea. And so there was some guys that started to realize like, hey, this is not going to work. If we take this way of doing war against the Nazis, we are going to get our butts crushed. And so one of the people that was starting to realize the value of that mindset was Winston Churchill when he came back in as the prime minister. And so he got together a couple of these guys, Jeffress and McCrae, and just all this wonderful cast of characters, and brought them all together to make this ministry of ungentlemanly warfare. And these were the guys that were the saboteurs that were creating the weapons and training the guys that were going out and doing all of these missions that were the backbone of the success of World War II, but that which none of us have ever heard about since then. So at the end of the book, one of the quotes that I loved is they were talking about how none of the weapons went on display and there was no mention of anything after the war was done. As soon as the war was over, all of these places and all these teams were disbanded and shunned. And one of the guys, McCrae, was quoted as saying, "We created an establishment which contributed more to the war effort than any other weapons design department. But it was an establishment so ungentlemanly in its outlook that it was to be forever erased from history." And it is fascinating to read how these guys came and their weapons and the things that they did were instrumental in winning the war. And then as soon as it was done, just silence, just disavowed, put off to the side, shoved into the dustbin of history, and no mention of them ever. And so Giles found out about this story and had tons of interviews with living relatives of the people, and they had huge archives that he went through to make this book, and he wrote a riveting book. I listened to it while I was reading it, and I could also highly recommend the audiobook. He's a great narrator. And yeah, if you have a chance to pick this up, hard copy or grab the audiobook of it, I cannot recommend it enough. And on top of that, next year, sometime in 2024, there's a film coming out with it, starring Henry Cavill and Alan Ritchson, who is the star of Reacher. If you haven't seen that show on Amazon Prime, you should go watch it because it is so good. And yeah, so it stars both of those guys, and it's directed by the guy who directed the movie The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I think is just a top-notch, wonderful movie. So I'm so excited about that. I finally got around to reading this book, partially in preparation for that, and I just can't say enough good things about it. If you want a super interesting history read, this has got to be next on your TBR. So there you go. I hope you like it. If you pick it up, let me know. If you've already read it, leave me a comment and let me know what you thought about it. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.